He went down hard, armor cracking, vision blurring red. Through the smoke he saw her, Princess Amara, 6 years old, frozen in the corridor with those wide brown eyes. The Korthax raiders were 30 meters behind her and, closing fast. Eric forced himself up. His ribs screamed. The tactical display in his helmet was dead. Blood filled his mouth. "Run!" he rasped. She didn't move. The raiders wore black exoskeletons, their weapons already tracking toward the child. Eric's rifle was gone, lost in the blast. He had maybe 4 seconds before they opened fire. He lunged forward, grabbed Amara, and threw himself through the nearest doorway. The wall beside them exploded in a shower of metal fragments. He rolled, tucking her beneath him as debris rained down. His back took most of it. They were in a maintenance shaft. Narrow. Dark. Eric's helmet lamp was cracked but still functioning, casting harsh shadows on the walls. He could hear the raiders' boots echoing in the main corridor. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Stay close." Amara nodded. No tears. Good kid. Eric pulled his sidearm and checked the charge. 60%. Not enough. He had no backup, no communications, and no plan beyond keeping her alive for the next 60 seconds. The Korthax had hit the diplomatic vessel without warning, punching through the shields while the ship was in slipstream. A precision strike. Someone had sold them the navigation codes. Eric had been escorting the princess to the observation deck when the first explosion tore through the port side. Now the ship was dying. Atmosphere venting. Power failing. And somewhere in this maze of corridors, the princess's mother, Queen Sereth of the Valanthe Collective, was either dead or fighting for her life. Eric's job was simple: keep Amara breathing. He moved down the shaft, one hand on the wall, the other gripping his weapon. Amara followed without being told. She'd been trained for this. All royal children were. But training and reality were different things. The shaft branched ahead. Eric paused, listening. Footsteps above. At least 3 hostiles, moving in formation. They were sweeping the ship methodically, checking every compartment. He chose the left branch. It sloped downward, toward the engineering decks. Risky, but it put distance between them and the raiders. They moved in silence. Eric's armor made soft clicking sounds with each step, damaged servos trying to compensate. He needed medical attention. The pain in his chest was spreading, making it hard to breathe properly. Broken ribs at minimum. Possibly internal bleeding. Didn't matter. Pain could wait. The shaft opened into a storage bay. Emergency supplies lined the walls. Oxygen canisters, repair kits, emergency rations. Eric scanned for weapons. Nothing useful. Amara tugged his sleeve. He looked down. She was pointing at a ventilation grate in the floor. Small. Maybe large enough for a child. "The safe pods," she whispered. "Mother said they're below engineering." Eric knew the pods. Every ship had them. Last resort escape capsules designed to survive catastrophic hull breaches. But they were keyed to royal genetic markers. Amara could activate one. He couldn't. "How far?" he asked. 2 levels down." Eric listened. The footsteps above had stopped. That was worse than hearing them. It meant the raiders were stationary, setting up positions or preparing to breach. He knelt and pried open the grate. The shaft below was vertical, barely wide enough for Amara. Metal rungs descended into darkness. "Can you climb down?" he asked. She looked into the shaft, then back at him. "You can't fit. I'll find another way." "Meet you at the pods?" "You're lying." Eric met her eyes. 6 years old, and she could read him perfectly. "Maybe," he said, "but you're still going down." An explosion rocked the ship. The lights went out. Emergency strips flickered to life, bathing everything in red. Somewhere distant, someone was screaming. Eric's helmet display came back online for 3 seconds, long enough to show him the tactical overview. The ship was hemorrhaging atmosphere. Hull integrity at 18%. Estimated time until total structural failure, 11 minutes. The display died again. "Now!" Eric said, lifting Amara toward the shaft. "Go! Fast as you can. Don't wait for me at the pods. If I'm not there in 5 minutes, you launch." She gripped the first rung, her small hand shaking. "Promise you'll come." "I promise I'll try." It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the truth. She started climbing down. Eric watched until the darkness swallowed her. Then he sealed the grate and turned back to the storage bay entrance. The raiders would be here soon. They'd follow the same logic he had. Sweep every room, check every corner. Standard boarding protocol. Eric found a carbon fiber support beam among the supplies and wedged it against the door mechanism. It wouldn't stop them, but it would slow them down. Buy Amara another 30 seconds. He positioned himself behind a stack of oxygen canisters, weapon raised, and waited. His chest felt like it was full of broken glass. Each breath was agony. The edges of his vision were starting to go dark. He thought about his daughter. She'd be 16 now. Living with her mother on New Terra, probably still angry that he'd chosen the Royal Guard over staying home. Maybe she'd understand one day. The door exploded inward. 3 Korthax raiders stormed through, weapons sweeping the room. Eric fired twice, dropping the first one. The second raider's shield absorbed his shot. The third one spotted him and opened fire. Eric rolled behind the canisters. Plasma rounds punched through the metal, superheating the oxygen inside. The air began to shimmer. He had one chance. Eric fired into the canister nearest the raiders. It ruptured in a ball of white flame that consumed half the room. The explosion threw him backward into the wall. His helmet cracked. His weapon clattered away. Through the smoke and fire, he saw one raider still standing. Armor scorched but functional. The alien raised its weapon toward Eric's head. Then the floor beneath them gave way. They fell together into darkness, tumbling through twisted metal and broken conduit. Eric hit something hard, felt something else break inside him, and then everything went black. When consciousness returned, seconds or minutes later, he couldn't tell. He was lying in a corridor he didn't recognize. The raider was 3 meters away, not moving. Dead or unconscious. Eric tried to stand. His legs wouldn't respond. His armor was completely offline now, just dead weight. He dragged himself forward using his arms. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through his body. The corridor ahead was tilted at an angle. Gravity was fluctuating as the ship's systems failed. He had to reach the pods. Had to make sure Amara was safe. The corridor branched. Eric chose right, pulling himself along the floor. Blood trailed behind him. His vision kept fading in and out. Ahead, he saw light. Blue-white and steady. Not emergency lighting. He dragged himself through the doorway and found her. Queen Sareth stood in the center of what remained of the bridge, surrounded by 6 dead raiders. Her ceremonial robes were torn and burned. In her hand she held a weapon Eric recognized, an old plasma blade, the kind Valanthe warriors carried before they joined the collective. She looked at him with those same wide eyes her daughter had. Then she looked past him, searching. "Where is Amara?" Her voice was perfectly calm, perfectly controlled, and absolutely terrifying. Eric tried to speak. Blood came out instead of words. Sareth crossed the distance between them in 2 steps. She knelt, her hand against his shattered helmet. "Where is my daughter?" Eric forced the words out. "Safe pods. Engineering. I sent her ahead." Saratha's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. She stood, activated a comm unit on her wrist. "All units, converge on engineering level safe pods. Priority Alpha." She paused. "And prepare medical. Full trauma response." Eric shook his head weakly. Medical was wasted on him. He could feel it, the cold spreading through his limbs, the darkness creeping in from the edges. "Not for you," Sarath said, reading his expression. "For my daughter. She'll need someone when she sees what you've done." Eric didn't understand. Sarath knelt again, and this time when she spoke, her voice was different. Softer. Dangerous in a new way. "You gave your life for her. Do you understand what that means to my people? What it means to me?" Eric's vision was fading. He tried to focus on her face. "Humans don't know our customs," Sarath continued. "You don't understand debt bonds. You don't understand what happens when someone sacrifices themselves for royal blood." She placed her hand over his chest, where his heart was struggling to beat. "But you will learn. I refuse to let you die. And I refuse to let you go." The last thing Eric heard before darkness took him was Saratha's voice, speaking in the old Valanthi tongue, words that sounded like a promise and a sentence all at once. Then nothing. Eric woke to pain and purple light. His body was on fire, every nerve screaming. He tried to move and couldn't. Something was holding him down, straps across his chest and legs. Medical restraints. The ceiling above him was curved, organic-looking, not human construction. Through the haze of agony, he recognized it, a Valanthi medical chamber. The kind reserved for their own people, not for human soldiers. "Don't fight the restraints," Saratha's voice, somewhere to his left. "The Nanites need you immobilized while they rebuild your chest cavity." Eric turned his head. Pain lanced through his neck. Sarah sat in a chair beside the medical pod, still wearing her torn robes. Dried blood, not hers, stained the fabric. "Amara," Eric managed. "Safe. Asking for you every hour." Sarath leaned forward. "You kept your promise. More than that. You destroyed yourself to protect her." The purple light intensified. Eric felt something moving inside his chest. Millions of microscopic machines knitting together damaged tissue, repairing what shouldn't have been reparable. "How long?" he asked. 3 days since the attack. 2 days since we stabilized you." Saratha's expression was unreadable. "The medical team said you should have died 6 times in the first hour. Your heart stopped twice during surgery. Your lungs were shredded. 3 vertebrae fractured. Internal bleeding in 4 organs." Eric processed this. "Why am I alive?" "Because I wouldn't allow it." It wasn't arrogance. Just fact. Eric had heard stories about Valanthi queens, how they could command reality itself when sufficiently motivated. He dismissed them as exaggeration. Maybe he'd been wrong. "The debt bond," Sarath said. "Do you know what it means?" Eric shook his head slightly. When someone saves royal blood through ultimate sacrifice, they create an unbreakable bond. In our culture, it cannot be dismissed or ignored. The saved must honor the Savior. The Savior becomes. She paused, choosing words carefully. Important. Protected. Valued above almost everything else. Eric's foggy brain struggled with this. "I was doing my job. Your job was to guard. You went far beyond that." Sarath stood, moving closer to the pod. "You threw yourself on fire for a child who isn't your blood, your family, your species. You gave everything expecting nothing. That kind of sacrifice, we don't treat it lightly. I don't want anything. I know. That's exactly why you'll receive everything. The door to the medical chamber opened. Amara rushed in, stopping when she saw Eric. Her eyes went wide, the same expression she'd worn in the corridor, but different now. Relief instead of fear. "You came back," she whispered. "Told you I'd try." Amara looked at her mother. Sareth nodded. The girl approached the pod carefully, reached through the restraints, and placed her small hand on Eric's arm. "Thank you," she said. "Mother explained what you did. The fire, the falling, all of it." Eric wanted to tell her it was nothing. Just duty. Just training. But the words wouldn't come because they'd be lies, and she deserved better. "You were brave," he said instead. "Climbing down that shaft. Reaching the pod alone. That took real courage." Amara's chin trembled. Then she did something unexpected. She pressed her forehead against his arm, a gesture Eric didn't recognize. Sareth's hand settled on her daughter's shoulder. "The blessing of the saved," she explained. "She's marking you as family. As protected. In our culture, it means I'm his sister now." Amara interrupted. "Forever. Mother said so." Eric looked at Sareth. The Queen's expression was serious, almost grim. "The dead bond extends to all royal blood you protected. Amara is bound to you. I am bound to you. You are now part of our family structure, whether you accept it or not. Whether you understand it or not." The medical chamber chimed. The purple light shifted to blue. Eric felt the pain beginning to recede as the nanites completed their primary reconstruction phase. "I have a daughter," Eric said quietly. "On New Terra. I haven't seen her in 4 years." Sareth's expression softened slightly. "Then you understand what you saved. What you gave me back." She touched the controls on the pod, adjusting something. "You'll see your daughter again. I'll make certain of it. But first you'll heal. Properly. Completely." "How long?" "The nanites need 2 more weeks to finish reconstruction. Another month of rehabilitation. Volanthi medical technology is superior to human standard, but even we can't rush healing from injuries this severe." Eric absorbed this. 6 weeks. His command would mark him as recovered or reassign him. His contract with the Royal Guard would expire. He'd go back to being nobody, just another soldier looking for work. Sareth seemed to read his thoughts. "You're not going anywhere. The dead bond doesn't expire. You saved my daughter's life. That makes you mine." The possessiveness in her voice made Eric uncomfortable. "I'm not property." "No. You're family. There's a difference." Sareth's eyes held his. "In Volanthi culture, family is everything. You protected family, so you become family. You're under my protection now. My responsibility. My—" She paused. "Treasure." Amara giggled at that. "Like the crown jewels?" "More valuable," Sareth said seriously. "Jewels can be replaced." Eric wanted to argue, to explain that he was just doing his job, that this wasn't necessary. But exhaustion was pulling him under again. The nanites were flooding his system with sedatives, forcing rest. "Sleep," Sareth commanded. "We'll discuss your future when you're whole again." His eyes closed despite his resistance. The last thing he heard was Amara's voice, asking her mother if Eric would teach her to be brave like him. Sareth's answer was too quiet to hear. The rehabilitation was brutal. Eric's body had been rebuilt, but the new tissue needed training. The Volanthi medical team pushed him through exercises that would have killed a normal recovery patient. But they weren't treating him like a normal patient. "Again," the lead physician said. A Volanthi male named Korath, built like carved stone. "Your muscle memory is insufficient. We need better integration." Eric forced himself through another set of resistance drills. His rebuilt chest burned. Sweat poured down his face. "Humans aren't designed for this," Eric gasped. "You're not fully human anymore," Koroth replied. "The nanites didn't just repair. They enhanced. Your bone density is 40% higher. Your muscle fiber is denser. Your cardiovascular system is more efficient. You're stronger than you were before the attack." Eric stopped mid-exercise. "You changed me without consent." Karotha's expression was carefully neutral. "The Queen commanded us to save you. We did. The enhancements were necessary for survival. Your human physiology was too fragile for standard Volanthi medical procedures. So you made me less human. We made you alive." Koroth crossed his arms. "Would you prefer death?" Eric didn't answer. He returned to the exercises, pushing through the burn. Sareth visited every day. Sometimes with Amara, sometimes alone. She never stayed long, just long enough to check his progress, to ensure the medical team was following her exact specifications. On the 18th day, she arrived without warning and dismissed Koroth with a gesture. "Walk with me," she said. It wasn't a request. Eric followed her out of the medical bay, through corridors he'd never seen before. The ship, a new diplomatic vessel replacing the destroyed one, was twice the size of the previous model. Built like a fortress. Sareth led him to an observation deck. Through the massive viewport, Eric could see the swirl of slipstream, the impossible colors of faster-than-light travel. "We're 3 days from Volanthi Prime," Sareth said. "My homeworld. You'll be presented to the High Council." Eric's stomach tightened. "Why?" "Because you saved the Crown Princess. Because you earned a debt bond with the ruling family. Because the Council must acknowledge you formally." Sareth turned to face him. "They're not happy about it." "About what?" "About a human becoming part of the royal family structure. The Volanthi Collective has existed for 6,000 years. We've allied with dozens of species, formed partnerships, shared technology. But we've never extended debt bonds beyond our own people." Her eyes held his. "You're the first." Eric processed this. "I can refuse. Walk away. Return to human space." "Yes, you could." Sareth moved closer. "But Amara would be devastated. She speaks of you constantly. Asks when her brave brother will teach her to fight. She's begun practicing human combat techniques because she wants to be like you." The guilt hit Eric like a physical blow. He'd never meant to become important to the child. He'd just been doing his job. "And if I refuse the bond?" Eric asked. "What happens to her?" "She learns that sacrifice means nothing. That promises are breakable. That family can abandon her when it becomes inconvenient." Sareth's voice was sharp. "Is that the lesson you want to teach a 6-year-old?" Eric looked out at the swirling colors of Slipstream. "You're manipulating me." "Yes. I'm using my daughter's emotional attachment to keep you close. I'm trapping you with obligation and guilt." Sareth's expression didn't change. "I'm also telling you the truth. Amara needs you. Not as a guard. As family. As someone who proved that love is stronger than fear. I don't love her. I barely know her. You died for her. What would you call that?" Eric had no answer. Sareth placed her hand on the viewport. "The High Council will offer you a choice. Accept the debt bond formally and become part of the royal family with all privileges and responsibilities. Or refuse it and return to human space with financial compensation and our gratitude. What do you want me to choose?" "I want you to choose honestly. Whatever that means." Sareth's reflection in the viewport looked tired. "But I won't pretend I don't have a preference. Amara needs stability. She needs to know that the person who saved her won't disappear. And I..." She paused. I need to know my daughter is protected by someone who would actually die for her. Not because of duty. Because of who you are. The viewport reflected both of them, a Valanthe queen in formal robes and a human soldier in medical grays, standing side by side against the impossible light of Slipstream. I have a daughter, Eric said again. I haven't been a father to her in years. How can I be family to Amara when I failed my own child? Sareth was quiet for a long moment. Then, contact her. What? Your daughter. Use my personal communication array. Reach out. Explain. Give her the choice to be part of this. Sareth turned away from the viewport. If she refuses, if she wants nothing to do with you, then you'll have your answer. But if she's willing to understand, then maybe you haven't failed as badly as you think. Eric stared at the Queen. Why would you allow that? Because family is complicated. Because I understand what it means to choose duty over presence. Because if you're going to be part of my family, I need you whole. Not broken by regret. Sareth headed toward the exit, then paused. The communication array is in my private quarters. Deck 7, Section 4. Use it whenever you're ready. She left Eric alone with the swirling lights and the weight of choices he never expected to face. Eric stood outside Sareth's quarters for 10 minutes before gathering the courage to enter. The space was larger than he expected, part office, part living area, part war room. Maps and tactical displays covered one wall. Personal items scattered on another, a child's drawing, a ceremonial blade, a hologram of Sareth and Amara laughing together. The communication array dominated the center of the room. Military-grade equipment, capable of punching signals through Slipstream. Expensive. Powerful. Eric sat at the console and entered his daughter's contact information. The array processed for 30 seconds, searching across light years for a connection. Then, her face appeared on the screen. Maya, 16 years old. Her mother's eyes, his stubborn chin. Hair pulled back in a style he didn't recognize. Dad? She looked shocked. Is this real? It's real. Eric's voice cracked. Hi, sweetheart. Maya's expression cycled through confusion, anger, relief, and settled on guarded caution. It's been 8 months since your last message. I know. I'm sorry. You're always sorry. But her voice wasn't as hard as her words. Where are you? That doesn't look like guard quarters. Eric glanced around Sareth's private space. It's complicated. I'm on a Valanthe diplomatic vessel, recovering from injuries. Maya's expression shifted to concern. What happened? He told her. Not all of it. She didn't need the graphic details, but enough. The attack. The princess. The sacrifice. The medical intervention. The dead bond. Maya listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You almost died, she finally said. Yes. For an alien kid you didn't even know. She needed help. Maya shook her head slowly. That's so you. Always saving everyone else. Never thinking about who's waiting for you to come home. The words hit harder than any plasma round. Eric absorbed the pain. You're right, he said. I've been a terrible father. I chose duty over you. Over your mother. Over everything that mattered. I don't have an excuse. No, you don't. Maya's eyes were wet. But you're calling now. Why? Because I'm being offered a choice. Stay with the Valanthe royal family. Accept the debt bond. Become family to the girl I saved. Or walk away and come home. What do you want to do? Eric had been asking himself that question for days. I don't know. Part of me wants to run. To forget about debt bonds and alien customs and responsibilities I never asked for. But another part, he paused, another part sees this little girl who needs someone, who looks at me like I'm a hero. And I remember what it felt like to be needed, to matter. Maya wiped her eyes. Does she remind you of me? A little? When you were younger. Before I ruined everything. You didn't ruin everything, Dad. You just weren't there. Maya's voice was softer now. Mom explained it when I got older. You needed purpose. You needed to be the hero. Home was too quiet for you. Eric felt something breaking inside his chest, something the nanites couldn't repair. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know. Maya smiled slightly. And I forgive you. I'm still angry. Still hurt. But I forgive you. The weight of those words settled over Eric like armor. If you stay with them, Maya continued, will you forget about me completely? Never. I could never. Then, maybe you should stay. Maya leaned closer to her screen. This is your chance to be the father you couldn't be for me. To actually be there for someone. Don't waste it, Dad. Don't run away from family again. Eric couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. I have to go, Maya said. Early class tomorrow. But Dad? Call me sometimes. Real calls. Not just emergency messages when you're dying. I want to hear about your weird alien family. I want to know about this princess. Maybe. She hesitated. Maybe I'll visit sometime. If they allow it, they will. I'll make sure of it. Good. Maya smiled, genuinely smiled. Love you, Dad. Even when you're an idiot. Love you too, sweetheart. The connection ended. Eric sat in the quiet of Saratha's quarters, staring at the blank screen. The door opened behind him. Sarath entered, carrying a data pad. She saw his face and stopped. You spoke with her. Eric nodded. And? She told me not to run away from family again. Sarath set down the data pad. Smart daughter. She got that from her mother. They stood in silence. Then, Sarath moved to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of something amber and 2 glasses. Valanthi's ceremonial drink, she explained, pouring. We share it when making important decisions. She handed Eric a glass. He took it cautiously. To difficult choices, Sarath said. To family, Eric replied. They drank. The liquid burned going down, smooth fire that settled warm in his chest. Sarath refilled both glasses. The High Council will convene in 2 days. They'll ask you formal questions. Test your understanding of our culture. Some will try to intimidate you. Others will question your worthiness. Looking forward to it already. Sarath almost smiled. I'll be there. Amara will be there. You won't face them alone. She set down her glass. But you need to understand what you're accepting. The dead bond isn't symbolic. It's binding. You become part of the royal family structure. You'll be expected to attend state functions, to represent the family, to uphold our values and traditions. You'll be given resources, authority, protection. But you'll also be a target. Anyone who wants to hurt my family will see you as a vulnerability. I've been a target before. Not like this. Saratha's expression was serious. The Korthax raid wasn't random. Someone paid them to attack that specific ship at that specific time. Someone wanted Amara dead. We still don't know who. Until we do, everyone close to my family is in danger. Eric absorbed this. You're saying accepting the bond makes me a target. I'm saying you're already a target. You saved the crown princess. You humiliated the people who paid for the attack. They won't forget. Sarath moved closer. At least as part of the family, you'll have protection, resources, support. Alone, You're just another soldier waiting to be eliminated. That's a cheerful thought. Ideal in reality, not comfort. Sareth held his gaze. But I promise you this. If you accept the bond, I will protect you the same way you protected Amara. With everything I have. Everything I am. The intensity in her voice made Eric uncomfortable. This wasn't just about gratitude or debt. This was something deeper. Why does this matter so much to you? He asked. Sareth was quiet for a moment. Then, because in 6,000 years of Valanthi history, only 17 dead bonds have been created. Each one changed our culture fundamentally. Each one reminded us what we value most: sacrifice, loyalty, love stronger than fear. She touched the edge of her glass. You gave me back my daughter. You gave Amara her life. How could that not matter? Eric had no answer. Sareth finished her drink and moved toward the door. Rest. Think. Decide. But know this, whatever you choose, I respect it. And, whatever you choose, thank you for giving me the chance to see my daughter grow up. She left Eric alone with the amber bottle and the weight of futures he never imagined. 2 days later, Eric stood before the High Council of Valanthi Prime. The chamber was massive, circular, carved from single piece of black stone that seemed to absorb light. 12 council members sat in elevated positions around the perimeter. Sareth and Amara stood beside Eric, formal and silent. The council speaker, an ancient Valanthi female with silver skin and eyes like stars, addressed him directly. Eric Castellan, human, former royal guard. You stand accused of creating a debt bond with the royal family through act of ultimate sacrifice. How do you plead? Eric blinked. Accused? Is that a crime? Several council members stirred. The speaker's expression didn't change. It is unprecedented. Unprecedented actions require examination. She gestured to a hologram that appeared in the center of the chamber, a recording of the attack showing Eric's final moments before the explosion. You threw yourself into fire for a child of another species. You accepted death for someone you had known for less than 6 hours. Explain. Eric watched his own death play out in blue light. She needed help. That is insufficient explanation. It's the only one I have. Eric met the speaker's eyes. I saw a child in danger. I had the ability to help. I helped. It's not complicated. But you went beyond help. You went to sacrifice. Why? Eric struggled to put it into words. Because sometimes that's what's required. Because if I'd chosen my life over hers, I couldn't have lived with myself. Because... He paused. Because she mattered more than I did in that moment. The chamber was silent. The speaker leaned forward. Do you understand what the debt bond means? What you would be accepting? Some of it. I'm still learning. You would become part of the royal family. Not symbolically. Actually, your bloodline would be elevated. Your children would carry royal status. Your name would be recorded in the books of honor. You would have authority, resources, and responsibility equal to Sareth's own siblings. The speaker's eyes bored into him. You would also be bound to serve the royal family for life. Your freedom would be constrained. Your choices limited. Your existence intertwined with ours. Is this what you want? Eric looked at Amara. The girl was watching him with those wide eyes, hopeful and terrified at once. He thought about his daughter Maya, telling him not to run from family again. He thought about dying on that ship, believing his last act would be protecting someone who mattered. He thought about what it meant to be needed, to be valued, to belong somewhere. I want to be someone Amara can count on, Eric said. I want to be the person who doesn't disappear when things get difficult. I want to prove that sacrifice means something. He turned back to the speaker. If accepting the bond does that, then yes. That's what I want. The speaker studied him for a long moment. Then she rose from her seat. The council will deliberate. You will wait outside. Sareth touched Eric's arm as he turned to leave. A small gesture, but it steadied him. In the corridor outside the chamber, Amara grabbed his hand. They'll say yes, she whispered. They have to. They don't have to do anything, Eric said gently. This is complicated for them. You saved me. That should be enough. For you and your mother, maybe. For them, it's politics. They waited an hour. Eric spent it memorizing the stone walls, the alien architecture, the way light moved through corridors built by hands that understood beauty differently than humans. When the chamber doors opened again, the speaker beckoned them inside. The 12 council members stood in a circle around the center of the room. Sareth and Amara moved to join them, leaving Eric alone in the middle. The speaker raised her hands. Eric Castellan, the High Council has deliberated. We have examined your actions, your intentions, your character. We have considered the unprecedented nature of your sacrifice. We have debated the implications of extending dead bond to a human. Eric's heart hammered. We have decided, the speaker paused, to honor the bond. Relief flooded through Eric's chest. But, the speaker continued, with conditions. You will undergo cultural training. You will learn our language, our customs, our history. You will prove yourself worthy not just through one act, but through continuous service. You will be tested, challenged, and evaluated. If at any point you prove unworthy, the bond will be severed and you will be exiled from Valanthe space forever. Eric nodded. I understand. Do you? The speaker descended from her platform, approaching until she stood directly in front of him. Do you understand that we are trusting you with our most precious treasure? That we are giving you access to our royal family, our secrets, our vulnerabilities? That we are betting our entire culture on the hope that one human sacrifice was genuine? I understand the weight of what you're offering, Eric said, and I won't betray that trust. The speaker studied his face. Then, slowly, she smiled, an expression that transformed her ancient features into something almost kind. Good. She turned to Sareth. Proceed with the ceremony. Sareth stepped forward, carrying a small ceremonial blade. She took Eric's hand and made a shallow cut across his palm. Then she did the same to her own hand and to Amara's. Blood to blood, Sareth said, pressing her bleeding palm against Eric's. Life to life. Sacrifice recognized. Bond sealed. Amara added her small hand to theirs. Family forever. The 12 council members began to chant in the old Valanthe tongue, words Eric didn't understand but could feel resonating in his bones. The cuts on their hands began to glow with soft blue light. Eric felt something shift inside him, not physical, but fundamental. Like reality itself was rewriting to accommodate this new truth. When the light faded, Sareth released his hand. The cut was gone, healed without a trace except for a faint silver line that marked where the bond had been sealed. It's done, Sareth said. You're family now. Actually, legally, spiritually. Everything I have is yours. Everything you are is ours. Eric looked at the silver line on his palm. What happens now? Amara grinned. Now you teach me to fight. Now, Sareth corrected, you begin the hardest part, living up to the sacrifice that brought you here. The council members filed out, leaving the three of them alone in the black stone chamber. Eric felt the weight of the moment settling over him, not oppressive, but substantial. Real. He'd made a choice that would define the rest of his life. Amara tugged his sleeve. Can we tell Maya? I want her to know we're family too. Eric smiled. Yeah, we can tell her. Sereth placed her hand on his shoulder, a gesture of acceptance, of trust. Welcome to the family, Eric Castellan. May you never regret what you become. Eric looked at the silver line on his palm, at the child holding his other hand, at the queen who had refused to let him die. I don't think I will, he said. And in the Blackstone chamber on Melanthe Prime, surrounded by 6,000 years of history and tradition, a human soldier became something new, something unprecedented. Something worth the sacrifice,